everybody, welcome to number 27. I'm Jack, and today I'm going to tell you why this 35-year-old Mercedes is better than most modern cars. The W124 is one of the most legendary Mercedes of all time, widely reputed to be the best built car that Mercedes or anyone ever made. This is a C124, which is the coupe version. In some ways it's actually worse than the saloon because it's heavier and not as aerodynamic, so you're paying something for those sleek looks. Because it's pillarless, they had to reinforce it elsewhere, so as a result, it's heavier, not quite as efficient through the air. They had a wide choice of engines, including diesels, 4-cylinder, and then inline straight 6s, like this one. The 6s were the ones that you wanted, really. They didn't use much more petrol than the 4-cylinder engines, but they perform much better. They were much nicer to drive. For the time, these were quite heavy things because they were so well made. So you needed the extra power of the bigger engines. The Italian Bruno Sacco designed these at Mercedes. The saloons, I think, look amazing. They've got perfect proportions. These coupes are just that little bit more elegant and prettier. The 4-doors, though, have a better CD of 0.29 as opposed to 0.3 for the coupe. The 300 initially came with a 12-valve engine of, is it the M103, I think? And they're also very good engines, a bit torquier low down. This one was more fuel efficient and had a bit more power, but that power seems to be all pretty much at the top end. If I put my foot to the floor, with the auto gearbox, takes literally a second to react, and then from about 4 on to almost 7, it still moves it. I mean, it's not a quick car by any standards, but it's not bad. It has an interesting engine though. I think the 12-valve before it maybe sounded a little bit more interesting. I think it was amongst the first generation of Mercs that had the multi-link rear suspension, so despite the fact that they are very soft, it's quite a sophisticated chassis. I'm not going to keep you in suspense for the whole video. I said that I think that this is better than many modern cars. And now I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why I think that that is the case. The first is that for me, it actually, this might surprise you, it drives better than most modern cars. Let's just do the usual run up the road to feel how it goes. So foot to the floor, bit of a delay as the gearbox and everything reacts. And then it goes and it pulls well enough. Whilst you're doing that, and always while you're driving it, you can feel the weight. It is masked by having quite light steering, but the body tends to sway and move, and that gives you an impression of its heft. Despite being very, very light, the steering gives you enough feedback that you know what's happening at the front of the car, and it always feels immensely secure and probably more keen to turn in than you would give it credit for. Because of that soft suspension, you're very unlikely to get anywhere near the limits of grip. So power is adequate, the engine is smooth enough, the car's quiet enough. What really distinguishes it from modern cars is the way it carries itself, what is transmitted through from the road. I think some modern cars maybe would have better isolation in terms of noise, but in terms of bumps, this is just in a class all of its own. The way these things drive, they are so calm, they are so unflustered. There's nothing quite as relaxing as driving a car of this type. Now granted, it doesn't feel like a sports car. Any modern saloon would run rings round it in terms of outright handling if you're going to be pushing it, but bear with me here. When are you really going to take advantage of that? First of all those modern cars, they have pretty lifeless control, so although you can get round corners very quickly, very tidily, and you have good body control, do you actually need it? Here in the UK, with the incredible amount of traffic that we have all the time, Just here, driving up and down this road today, I've always had a car in front of me. When I'm in something sporty, it's immensely frustrating because I want to drive it quickly and I can't. Today, I don't need to do that to tell you why this car is so amazing. So that was the first thing. Secondly, it's the attention to detail and quality, which I think is totally unrivaled. Let's start with the vault-like interior. Everything here looks and feels like it is made to last, and it is designed with a purpose. The architecture of the dashboard it's just imposing. Everything fits in a certain way. All the materials are top class. The switches are all solid, and there has been thought put into absolutely everything. There's the three-pointed star at the front that hovers around the road just so majestically. There's those instruments that I don't think have ever been bettered in terms of clarity and layout. The seats are comfortable, I have to say, for my liking. Maybe they're a little bit too flat benched. If they had a bit more profiling, they would be even better. But then there is other items that show you what has got into this. The mechanism for that wiper is just crazy. Why they went to the lengths of doing that, I don't know. 2 wipers would have been absolutely fine, or even 1 normal wiper would have covered enough of the screen. But no, they had to go the extra mile. When you flip up the bonnet, there's an extra level that you can move it to for ease of access to the engine bay. That is brilliant engineering. Other incredible things, the rear lights have those fins because if it's snowing or if there's quite a lot of dirt from the road, the dirt will go into the channels, leaving the raised edges clear so that you will never lose sight of them. And they are really built like tanks. I myself had a project C124, the Merc, which had been painted in RAF colours. I had to repaint that whole car and I took it to bits so I can see how incredibly well it was put together. To give you an example, the little black strip just below the boot. Now with most cars you would expect that it would have a couple of bolts holding it in place. That's what I thought. 8 separate nuts, bolts, studs it's got there to hold it where it is. All the little clips holding the side mouldings, they're all designed to last. Everything on these cars, they're a joy to work on if they haven't been mucked about with too much, because they're just so well designed and built. So far then, I've argued that it drives better and is better built, more comfortable than most modern cars. What's the next thing? Well, it won't depreciate. I can't bear it when you go and buy a new car and within a year you've lost 30 or 40% of its value. That's especially true of electric cars. Now, okay, this isn't as fuel efficient. I think that realistically, you can expect to get a mixed average of about 25 miles to the gallon. Maybe you could stretch it to 30 if you're particularly careful and live in the right sort of area. But it does use more petrol than a modern car. But in terms of both value financially and emissions, you already have this. This is already here. So I think it's about 8 tons of CO2 that are emitted to build an average new car, and 10 tons if it's electric. That is an expense that you don't have with this. Financially as well, once you've bought one, it's not going to lose any money. It will need some maintenance. These are incredibly well built, but if you get a good one and you look after it, it really shouldn't be too bad. Now I can hear you ask, is he really genuinely believing that this is better than a modern car, or is he just trying to find something to say? And I can assure you, I genuinely do believe this is better than a modern car. It's also got to the stage where it's not so complicated that you need a scientist or with a laptop to work on it. You know, it's still a piece of machinery. It feels like it was built by hand to an extent. Much more than anything modern, it has a distinctive character. Now there is one area where even I can't say that this is better than a modern car, and that is when it comes down to safety. It was a very safe car for its time. It's still, I'd say, relatively safe today, but of course modern cars have made huge strides in that area. So that is one side, but I think I'm using this because I want to argue that modern cars have the design of modern cars has, for me at least, gone in the wrong direction. They haven't gained that much in terms of real comfort. They've just got a load of gadgets and weight. Let's talk a little bit about prices, because that's also important. So you can find these going anything from £1,500 to 15,000. I paid, I think, $1,250 for mine, which was a real basket case, but that was a bit of an exception, and it did turn out to have quite a few things wrong with it. I think to buy a usable car, a usable project car, which might need a few things doing, you would be looking at sort of £4,000 to £5,000. For a good car, I think you should budget closer to 10. This car, which has 132,000 miles, but as usual, because of the quality, really doesn't show it. This feels like a very, very nice, very sorted car. Is currently for sale on Car and Classic for £10,000. If you're interested, I'll put a link in the video description. I haven't been through it with a fine-tooth comb, but to me it seems like a very, very nice car that I'd be happy to own. I think paying any more than $10,000 in this current market, you'd need to have something absolutely exceptional. Thank you so much to Rafe for bringing this down today. It's been great to reacquaint myself with these absolutely fabulous cars. Now, if you enjoyed this video, YouTube is usually quite good at suggesting things you might be interested in. If that looks good to you, then please do support the channel and watch it. Thank you so much. Do subscribe if you haven't, and I look forward to seeing you for the next video.